we're going to be putting in an elbow dart. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause a shift in the bottom part of the sleeve. If we put a wedge of something in there, this side would shift down. Does that make sense? This middle part is pretty much done, but the dart's going to affect this back area. We do need a little bit more room in the back of the sleeve than in the front because we have that elbow there. So we are going to be adding a little bit. So we're now going to look at this D prime line, and we're going to be adding a little bit in the back for the elbow. So I'm down now at the bottom of page 57. So along the D prime line, the front intersection, this is actually the underarm seam, if you can believe it. The front intersection, I'm going to label S. And that stays where it is. S is good. The back intersection isn't going to mean anything for us. We want it to be bigger than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it bigger by 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go out 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to put a mark. This new bigger mark is going to be R. Okay. I'm now going to connect R with E. So my underarm seam in the back is now a little bit bigger. And that's a final line. So we have a final line here, we have a final line here. This doesn't matter anymore. Okay. We're going to put a dart in along this back portion of the elbow line, and that dart is going to be half of the length between R and the center line. So again, you can welcome to measure and do the math. Or forward.
How much did you extend?
1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to put a mark. That mark is going to be my vanishing point. That mark I'm going to label with a T. Okay. Our dart is going to be a 1-inch dart. So we're going to do a little kind of a pivoting trick to find where 1 inch is going to be. It's helpful to know that the length of this dart, so, and everybody's forms or everybody's sleeves are going to be a little bit different because everybody's biceps are a little bit different, which means these are a little bit different. So you need to find the length of your own dart, okay? And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making another dart leg that same length 1 inch wide beneath it. And the way I like to do that is I like to find my measurement along the bottom edge of my ruler. Okay, so if I locate my measurement, mine's like 2 7/8 or something like that. If I find my measurement with the ruler sitting on top of the line, I like to pivot down from that measurement, pivot, 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 until my ruler, my 1 inch mark on my ruler hits that elbow line. So one more time, I have the ruler sitting on top. Okay, here's my dart measurement. I'm going to pivot at that dart measurement until, until the end of my ruler, the 1 inch mark, hits my line. Okay, so that's giving me a 1 inch gap. And I'm going to draw in my dart leg there. Okay, so I now have a 1 inch dart in there. Alternately, you could measure down an inch, put kind of a horizontal line and pivot until it hits that horizontal line.
Can I ask you to do
Sure.
that again? Because I can't see. So from the beginning, yeah.
So here's 0 is at R. My dart, whatever the measure, mine's some random measurement, it's not worth even writing
Yeah,
down.
so top
I'm
line.
finding where that measurement is,
Yeah.
and at that measurement's staying fixed,
Right.
and I'm pivoting from that measurement downwards
Oh, I see.
until I have a 1 inch
Okay.
space here.
Got it.
Okay, then I'm going to trace that length there. This new this second end of the dart leg, this is going to be called U. Okay. Now we'll be closing this dart. Okay, so if I close this dart, what's going to happen down here is this portion is suddenly going to be too short, right? If I'm taking out an inch in the length there, this side will be too short. It'll be 1 inch-ish shorter than this side. So I need to lengthen this line so that when this is closed, these two pieces sew together and they're the same length. Okay? So what I need to do is I need to find out what this length would be if it was closed, and I need to extend that length lower. Okay, so the other thing that's going to happen is if this is, while it's open, this whole thing is going to kind of pivot in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how I pivoted my ruler down and my ruler tipped that way? The sleeve is actually also going to kind of tip that way too. So we're going to give ourselves a mark that tells us how tippy to make the sleeve. So O is just a temporary mark. We're going to measure in 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to label that V. V is just going to tell us what angle the sleeve is. Our wrist is going to end up somewhere down here eventually. Okay, but V is going to help us find our angle. Okay, so we're going to be drawing a line from U that passes through V, and it's going to extend longer. Now that distance wants to be the same distance if I measure the distance from R to O. Okay, if I measure from R to O, whatever that measurement is, okay, and I shift my ruler to hit U through V, and draw a new line segment. This new line segment wants to be the same length. Whatever R to O is, this new line segment wants to be that same length. Okay, so U through V to the end. This new end point we're going to call W. Okay. So it's almost like that amount of gap kind of ended up happening down here. Now we need to finish off our wrist. We know that the wrist is 4 inches smaller than the bicep, right? But since we angled it, stuff shifted. So we need to know what our wrist measurement is. And we're going to redraw the wrist line. So mine is... So I still want that wrist measurement, but I want it to start from W. So what I'm going to do is, mine is 8 5/8. I'm going to go over to W. And I'm going to tip my ruler up until, if 0 is at W, until my wrist measurement hits that wrist line. So if I know my wrist measurement is 8 5/8, I'm going to put 0 at W, and I'm going to pivot up until my wrist measurement hits this original wrist line. Okay, and I'm going to label that guy X. I'm going to connect those dots. So this is a new wrist line that's tilted but the same length as the last one. Okay, and the very last line would be connecting X to S. If I just connected it with a ruler, I would get a point here, and that's sort of strange to have a point in a pattern. I mean, I bend there, but if I have my arms straight, there's not a point there. So I want to blend out that curve. So instead of using a ruler, well, I could use a ruler. I could use a ruler and then go back and curve it a little. Or I can use a hip curve, a very, very straight part of the hip curve. And I'm